We've now driven over to another gold-bearing creek at Sunny Corner. Now I've driven down from the very start of it, high up on the hill, and as I've been coming down, the hills are very, very steep, and I've just been looking down in the creek looking for signs where the old fellas have been digging. Now just here behind me is the first real big deposit of materials that have been washed down and deposited in this creek. Now there's something we're going to have a quick look at. So this is the first real alluvial deposit that I've seen as I've been driving down. Now straight away there's indications that the old fellas have had a bit of a look there for gold. There's a digger's hole there. There's a digger's hole there. And the more you keep looking there, the more of these digger's holes you can see. But the main deposit of alluvials that have been there, that have been deposited there, are untouched. And that's telling you something. Unlike the first area that we were at, where we actually looked and they'd removed all the material, there was no digger's holes at all. All that material was removed because all that material was containing gold. What they've done here is they've put digger's holes down, or diggers or shafts down into the gravels and the alluvials, trying to see if there's gold there. Now there's scattered holes everywhere, but they haven't worked all that material. So what's that's telling me, and it should be telling you guys as well, is that they've looked for gold there. They may have found a little bit, but it definitely wasn't worth working. Hence why they haven't touched the rest of it. They've tried, found very little, and walked away from it. Anybody else that came along after them would have looked and seen that there's a couple of digger's holes there and went, if they haven't kept working, if they haven't put more holes in or haven't actually worked all those alluvials, there's probably nothing there. So these are the things that you need to start looking at when you're going into these areas, known gold areas, that will help you actually identify where you're going to find the gold along that stream. So it's still quite steep. When this is in flood, it's going to travel quite quick. I say the hills are very steep leading in here, like the banks. So when you get those floods, those flash floods here, the material is going to move very, very fast, and it's only occasionally a spot where you'll get a deposit where it slows down enough that it can actually settle out and create like a floodplain. But obviously they didn't find much gold here. So we'll get back in the vehicle, we'll drive further down and start looking for more of these digger's holes, a higher concentration of them, and see what that tells us. Now that we've driven further down the creek, these little flat areas of alluvial deposits no longer have just digger's holes, but they actually started to work trenches into these deposits. Now it's going to be really hard to see with all the ferns and fallen trees and that, but this area here has been worked quite hard. As I've been driving down, I've driven past a couple of old mines. There's one on that side and two on this side of the creek. There's a reason why they did so much work along this little flood alluvial area just here. And I'm going to show you why. And anybody that's close to the area is going to be going, woohoo! This area just here, where I am, is where I got a really nice little lumpy bit of gold out of a pocket sitting in the bedrock. Now when you start going up above this gully right here, the gold dramatically drops off. You still find gold, it's only small stuff. But from this gully here, right here where I am now, this gully that runs in, downwards, you find lots of good coarse gold. From here up, you find fine gold. And looking at this gully, straight away, you're starting to say, well, if there's gold on the downstream side of where this gully enters a creek, and only fine gold on the upside, wouldn't it make sense that this is where the gold's coming from? It sure does, because up there on the hill there's a gold mine, an old one. I have actually gone up there and detected gold out of that gully. So I say, if you're local and you like your detecting, this little gully does hold gold that is detectable. Now, a few people have asked me where the old crushing plant was here, because I say they had a crushing 5-head stamper here as well. They were crushing the ore from the mine up on that hill and from the mine just up around the corner here. Not 100% sure. Normally you can tell just by looking at the surface of all the crushed rock that's there, but I'm pretty sure it's right here where all this bark is, from where the forestry has been cleaning up the pines. But I'm fairly certain that there, or where I'm standing, where the road's been constructed, is where that stamper was. And the reason I say that is, I get mercury and amalgam out of the creek just here. So I say, when you start looking and you're seeing these diggers' holes, and all of a sudden it's not just a random hole here and there, they get more concentrated and they start joining up and turning into trenches and things like that, it's a fair indication that your gold is increasing in concentration in these areas. Always looking at the ground, the bark. So these are the things that help point you towards where you're going to find your gold. And you're safe. Anywhere from that gully upwards, you don't find a great deal. Or I haven't, and I say I've been coming out here for a lot of years. There's still the occasional digger's hole. There's one just over there, it's pretty hard to see. And just there, underneath the branch of that tree, there's a couple over there. But there's not many. But up there on that hill, there is one mine. I've just got to think of where I am. There's one mine up there. There's 2 or 3 up there on the top of the hill, and there's another mine up in there. And all of those mine areas all lead into this one gully that runs down in. So it makes sense that the further you go down the creek and the more gold you're finding, that gold is coming off the hill somewhere. Well, I know that this gully here definitely holds gold. I've gotten gold out of the creek just there where it joins, and I've gotten gold out of the gullies up there where I've walked up with the detector. So if we keep going down this creek, chances are we're going to see more and more of these workings in higher concentrations closer together. And I'd say we get down here somewhere, I'm going to find a really likely looking spot. I'll grab the panning gear out. We'll go and have a pan and see if we can get a few colours. So I found a likely looking spot to try and wash a pan. And I got 2 little bits of gold out of this first spot that I tried. So I might as well take you and show you exactly where this spot was and why I picked it. So you can see that this area gets worked fairly well, but a lot of this sediment you're seeing is just because this is a crossing in the creek. And I say there's some nice little pockets of gravel sitting on hard clay. But that's not the spot I chose to have a dig. This is the gold I got from my first pan. There's 2 bits there. And I'll show you where I got them from. Right there. You can see that's in the actual trail going up the hill. Look at that bedrock. It's smooth, it's water-worn. And why did I think that would be worthwhile trying? Not just the fact that there's smooth, water-worn bedrock there, but when you actually come a little bit higher up the hill, look at the piles of worked alluvials here. And once again, these aren't diggers' holes. They've been hooking right in and digging out massive amounts of material, because all of this material on this bend here would contain gold. That trench continues right through the saddle of the hill, out to the other side, and rejoins the creek again. You can tell it's a popular spot. There's another vehicle over there. Someone would be down there chasing a bit of gold. Probably not the spot most of you would have thought I picked. But there you go. In the middle of the track, sitting on bedrock in a little bit of a groove, I've got 2 bits of gold. So I'm going to just wash a few more pans from just in and around this bit of bedrock area and just see how much more gold I can get off this track. Alright, put the phone down, wash a few more pans and show you the result. I've washed 4 pans from this one crevice in the track here, and you've seen what's been coming out with each pan. And some of you may be wondering why I would say that would be a likely spot. Besides what I've said about the fact that it's waterworn bedrock and there's alluvial gravels, ancient ones that are up there, that the old fellas have worked, they worked it hard, so there's definitely gold there. That spot's got a couple of other things going for it. One, it's right in the middle of a track. Now, what makes that more of a likely spot? Every four-wheel drive and motorbike and thing that goes up here is breaking up all of this old ancient alluvials and softening it up and breaking it up and sending it down. Each and every time we get some rain here, that water washes down. Anything that's loose, like little flakes of gold and all that, all get channeled down to this one spot. That crevice was fairly full, had fairly fines and some coarse large rocks in it. I've thrown the large ones over off to the side. So it had a variety of size rocks, but everybody else is doing the hard work for you. Four-wheel drives that are going up and down these hills, motorbikes that are going up and down these hills, they're all working on these old ancient gravels that are in this track. And as they keep loosening it up, it just keeps on moving. All this loose material just keeps moving its way down with each bit of rain, and it's washing down through these little crevices here. And when you start looking at how much material is actually just sitting here in this washout, and knowing that each pan I'm washing, I'm getting gold, there is the perfect example of how new gold is coming into a stream. It's constantly washing off the hills. That's a really good example, because you've got not only natural erosion, but you've got erosion from vehicles travelling up and down there. But yeah, it really is the perfect example of how new gold does make it back into stream. So even when an area gets, as people say, flogged out or worked out, after a big flood or after a couple of smaller floods, new gold will come in and be deposited in those little crevices and that have been previously worked. Most of the crevices that have been worked in this creek have been worked for hundreds of years. If you're just lucky enough to come out there after a flood and rework those crevices, you'll get new gold. I'll quickly show you what just come out in this fourth pan, and then I might just do a bit more work there and just see what other bits of colour I can get out of that bedrock area. So far the third pan's been the best. That was the fourth pan. So I'm still getting not bad flakes of gold. Wash a few more and see what else we can get out of the middle of this track, or the washout in this track. Righto. I think I've done about as much as I want to do today. And all the gold that we've found today all came from that one little spot, that one little washout there in the track. So I'll take yous up and I'll show you what I've tipped out there in the gold dish. I say, it just goes to prove you don't have to walk a million miles. You don't have to bash your way into areas that other people don't get to. You've just got to use the knowledge you've got. Think about, when you get somewhere, think about where is the gold going to be most likely sitting, and then take the time to have a bit of a look around before you even get your equipment out and start having a dig. Take us up and show you the gold. And literally, I could have parked right there and had my back against the bull bar of the vehicle and get gold. So you don't even have to get out and walk, literally. So I didn't work a great deal. And this is the gold that come out of just that little part there. So really, that's not too bad from just that. So anyway, as I said, that's it for me today. Not a real long one. Some of the footage you've looked at is going to be a little bit up and down and all that, because I say I'm only just learning to use the gimbal. I'm back to holding the phone by hand because I couldn't quite grasp it. A bit more trial, playing around with it, and I'll get there. All right, guys. Well, I hope wherever you are finding lots of yellow. Get out there and get into it. Take the time, look for your spots, and I'll guarantee you'll find gold. All right, until the next video, have a good one, and I'll see you all later.